Well, greetings and salutations to everybody out there in YouTube land. I'm your host once again, Dan Thornton. I want to thank you all for tuning in this morning to talk a little bit about the Lions and where we're at with things. I'm sure if you're paying attention to your news sources last night, you understand that the Dan Campbell regime is going to face yet another test. As I'm sure you're all aware, C.J. Gardner-Johnson is going to be out for a little while, possibly the season. This is on top of the news that we reported yesterday about James Houston potentially being out for 6 to 8 weeks, maybe longer. So the injuries are starting to mount for the Detroit Lions, who are now 1-1 on the season, as we're all aware. They've won one really impressive game, close game on the road against Kansas City. They lost a heartbreaker at home in overtime against the Seattle Seahawks. So here's what I'm going to say in today's episode of Lions Talk Live. This is Dan Campbell's biggest moment of his career. He's got mounting injuries. He's got a team that's highly disappointed with the result of last Sunday's game. And what do you have here now? You've got an undefeated Atlanta Falcons team coming to town that's relatively healthy, and you've got a team in a little bit of flux. Campbell's going to have to figure a way out to get the defense to play at a higher level than what it currently is, and now you're going to have to do that without Gardner-Johnson, without James Houston, and potentially a few other players who are a little dinged up. What could help the Lions is Emmanuel Mosley's probable return this upcoming weekend. But no matter what it is, Dan Campbell, his strength as a coach isn't X's and O's as far as the offense or the defense, or at least not to my knowledge base. It's motivating people. And right now you've got a team that has high expectations for this season. There's going to be a lot of human nature starting to creep up saying, man, we've lost this guy, we lost that guy. This person isn't performing as we had hoped. So what's human nature do? Human nature kind of lends us all to say, oh, woe is me. Dan Campbell can't allow that. Dan Campbell's got to talk to Aaron Glenn and say, who do we put in that spot for C.J. Gardner-Johnson, assuming he's going to be out? And my guess is that's going to be Tracy Walker. Who do we use to help replace James Houston? My guess is it's got to be Romeo Okwara, assuming both players are ready to go. Could the defense even get better with Emmanuel Mosley out there? I believe so. It's not that I dislike Jerry Jacobs. I just think he's probably not an ideal person to have as your number 2 CB. But whatever it is, Dan Campbell this week is going to be tested to get this team mentally, emotionally, and physically ready to play against the Atlanta Falcons. Winning cures a lot of things, a lot of ills, a lot of down feelings, a lot of hurts, a lot of bumps, and a lot of bruises. Anybody who's coached worth a while says you can't look into a mirror and say, hey, blame somebody else. You got to look in the mirror and say, what can I do to help this team? Dan Campbell is at that point in his career where the first year I get it. Nobody was going to give him a lot of grief for whatever happened because you know what? The team wasn't that great. Talent-wise, schematically, whatever it was. Last year, though, they hit on something. After starting the year 1-6, obviously we all know they caught fire and nearly made the playoffs. Unfortunately, Seattle didn't do us any favors. Excuse me. But for also the third straight year, you got a team that's opened up 1-1. Like last year, we went into Minnesota thinking we had an opportunity to win, and then we blew it last seconds. Dan Campbell, if you watch Lions Talk Live Sunday when I was doing the live broadcast and even the post-game show, I talked a lot about how the gambling man, Dan, had kind of gone away during the Lions' winning streak towards the end of the season. But we've seen him return quite heavily at the start of this season. Dan Campbell's got to find a way to control his urges and his desires to go for it on so many fourth downs and put his team in better opportunities to win. Him, Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson are all going to have to come together and say, what can we do to help this team out? The fortunate part for the Detroit Lions, injuries happen to every NFL team. They just got a rash of them Sunday. So while all Lions fans, I get a lot of us want to say it's doom and gloom, same old Lions, whatever it may be, you can't do that. If you're Dan Campbell, you've got to find a way to get this team fired up, ready to go, run through a wall for you to get your end result. This team wants to win. This team wants to be in the postseason. This team wants to contend for a Super Bowl. And if you're looking in the mirror and just saying, man, it's not going our way, let's give up, then you're not going to get anywhere in life, let alone in the world of coaching. John, how you doing? I'm trying to read all this. Don Burr, all you guys, CJ reported out for the season. Yep, with a torn pectoral. You were correct. And he may be just out for the season. If it is, though, the next person's got to come up. My guess is that is Tracy Walker. My guess is he's going to fill in. You probably leave Brian Branch up in the slot. leave Walker and Kirby Joseph out as your safeties. That's not a bad combo. Now, I may have my issues with Tracy Walker saying, he's a great player. He's just not a playmaker. And let me rephrase that. I think he is a above average player. He just isn't a playmaker. So it doesn't matter what I think. Here's his opportunity to prove me and everybody else wrong. Tracy Walker, he once upon a time, were considered a starter in Detroit. Can you re-emerge and become a great player again for this team? Romeo Okwara, can you come in and help the pass rush? Whatever it is, Dan Campbell, Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson are going to have to say, hey, Seattle was out without these guys. Look what they were able to do to us. Because if you were going to give up already in the season, then this season is a wash and you're not going to go anywhere. And my guess is if that happens, we're going to be looking at some changes in Detroit. I'm just going to say this. Somebody who's coached for more than a minute, Dan Campbell, I think his greatest strength is his personality, his ability to motivate people. And he is going to be tested here in this week. He's got to find a way to get everybody pointed in the same direction, saying, we're going to do this, we're going to achieve this, and we don't care about injuries, we don't care about the media or whatever else. So I'll try to stay on top of news sources today, see if I get any more breaking news or updates on different players. I'm going to guess we're going to be without Big B for a while. Maybe Montgomery misses this week. Other than that, I guess it's all wait and see with who's going to be where. I do expect that Taylor Decker will probably be back against Atlanta, but perhaps I'm wrong. My thinking behind that is they didn't list him as out basically until Saturday, so he had to be pretty close because they kept him off the out list for for Sunday's game until the last moment. So they had some reasonable expectations he could potentially go. So what was the news? Sorry, just joined. No real big news. You probably already know Gardner Johnson's out for the year, potentially. It's not official yet. James Houston's going to be out, I'd say at least 2 months, maybe a little bit longer. So who's going to step in their spots? I'm saying Tracy Walker probably takes over for Gardner Johnson. You probably play him in the back half of the defense with Kirby Joseph. Brian Branch probably stays up in the slot. And if one of the safeties are required to come up into help out against the run, it's probably going to be Walker, and he's not actually bad with that. So what's going to happen? I guess we'll wait and see, but I will say this. This weekend's game is going to be the most pivotal game of Dan Campbell's career. Make no bones about it. He and the Lions need to win in the worst way possible against Atlanta. If they fall this game, that's not going to be good. Dan Campbell's got to find a way to get this team to look forward and get a big win at home against the Atlanta Falcons. Stay tuned to Lions Talk Live. I'll hit you up with updates as they come in throughout the day. Take care and enjoy your day.